Today we're going to be talking about inequalities, so we're going to do one-step inequalities, and they're really similar to one-step equations, and you guys are really good at that. We're going to be on page 65, so I want you to go ahead and pause your video so that you can set up your notebook just like it is shown. This is your warm-up. Determine the value of x in the model below. So this is a one-step equation. So you can use your bubbles. Remember, if you want to use the bubbles, that you have to do only 4 because it's a one-step equation and not a two-step equation. Your learning goal says solve equations and inequalities and represent solutions for equations and inequalities on a number line. Your language goal says read symbols for inequalities with meaning. Go ahead and get this paper out. This is a half sheet and it should be inside of your notebook. It says look at the situations below. Circle the numbers that are possible answers. So I'm going to need a highlighter for this. So number 1 says Jessica spent more than $5 at the arcade. So let's highlight the important information. So more than 5. And I want to circle all the numbers that are more than 5. Well, the numbers that are more than 5 are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. All of those are more than 5. I don't include 5 because I only want the bigger numbers, so only 6 through 15. Number 2 says less than 6 people rang the bell on the mallet game. So again, I'm going to need that highlighter, and I'm going to highlight less than 6. And so I need to circle what's less than 6. Well, everything that's less than 6 is everything that's smaller. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Those are all smaller or less than 6. Number 3 says there were less than 10 people in line for the Ferris wheel. So less than 10 I want to highlight. Well, all of my numbers that are less than 10 are 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Number 4, it says it cost more than 6 tokens to ride the bumper cars. So more than 6 is going to be important, but I'm going to do it a different way. So my numbers that are more than 6, the first number that's more than 6 is 7. So let's go ahead and circle that 7. And I know that all the numbers that are more than 6 are all of those bigger numbers than 6. So if you'll go ahead and make yours look like mine. We're going to be doing our graphing equations just like this today. So make sure that more than 6, it starts at 7 and it includes all those numbers to the right of it. Number 5, there are less than 8 lemonade stands. So less than 8. Well, the first number that's less than 8 is 7. And it includes all the numbers that are less than 8. So I want to draw a line through all those lines. Make sure that you have an arrow at the end of your line. Number 6, there are more than 12 different flavors of taffy. So more than 12. The first number that's bigger than 12 is 13. And I want to include all of those numbers that are more than 12. You're going to want to glue this paper in underneath your warm-up. So if you go to your notebook, it's going to go right here. You're going to glue that in here. You may have to fold your paper in order for it to fit. Alright, so let's just look at this really quick. It says one or many, and this is the different ways that you can represent things. Well, I know that this equal sign just means equal to. Okay, then I know that this sign right here, that just means greater than. And I know that this sign on the bottom means less than. We know those ones already. But there are some new ones. So this new one right here is going to be greater than or equal to. That line underneath it just means that it's going to be also equal to that number. Then our other one that we don't know yet is going to be our less than or equal to. So it's kind of like a half equal sign. And so then I'm going to show you what's here, and we're going to talk more about that later on. So you already know how to read and say 3 of those symbols, those ones that we talked about, and then we just showed you how to say the other symbols, the new symbols. You're going to want to get this paper out. So it says x is equal to 1. That's what it tells me right here. X is equal to 1. Well, the possible values for x, if it's equal to, it can only be 1. And all solutions on a number line, well, if x is equal to 1, it can only be 1. It's not a greater than or equal to sign, so it can only be equal to 1. So how many solutions do I have? Well, I only have one of them because there's only a dot on my number line. I did not shade left or right. So then I have x is greater than or equal to 1. So the possible values for x, anything that's bigger than 1. So the possible values could be 2, 3, 4, 5, and it keeps going. Well, all of the solutions on a number line. So let's see how I'm going to do that. Well, if x is greater than or equal to 1, I want to start at 1. And so since I have a greater than or equal to sign, which is this one, and I look here at how I should shade it. So I know that I have a black dot, so I need to shade it all in. And I know that it's going to go to the right. Well, how many solutions do I have? Well, I have more than one because I have 2, 3, 4, 5, and it keeps going. So I have many solutions. So possible values for x. So we have an equation here. X plus 2 is equal to 5. And so I have to solve this equation. So I have x plus 2 is equal to 5. Well, I know that the opposite of plus 2 is minus 2. So I need to subtract 2 on both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I bring down that x. And x is equal to 5 minus 2, which is 3. So the possible values for x, well, it's x is equal to. If it has that equal sign, then the only number that it can be equal to is that 3. So on my number line, I'm going to find my 3 and I'm going to shade it in, because if you look here, anytime I have an equal sign, it's just a dot. Well, the number of solutions, I only have 1 because it's only touching one number. Now I have x plus 2 is less than or equal to 5. So I have to solve this. So I have x plus 2 is less than or equal to 5. Well, this looks a little bit weird. So what I could do is I could make this and pretend it's an equal sign. So let's rewrite it. I have x plus 2 is is equal to 5. It's equal to 5. So I could rewrite that. And so all I did was I changed this inequality sign into an equal sign. So I know how to solve this. The opposite of plus 2 is to subtract 2. And I do the same thing on both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I cancel them out, and I bring down this x. Well, x is equal to 5 minus 2, which is 3. Okay, so we were able to find what it's equal to, but I now need to rewrite that rewrite it with that inequality sign. So I have x is less than or equal to 3. So the possible values for x would be anything that's less than or equal to 3. So it could be 3, it could be 2, 1, and it keeps going. Anything that's less than 3, but also equal to 3. So on my number line, I want to find the 3. And if I have this symbol right here, that less than or equal to, I have to find it here. And so I look here, well, this is what my line should look like. So I should shade in my circle, and I need it to be pointing this way. Well, the number of solutions, it's going to be multiple, right? Because it's not just one dot. It has a line that goes as well. My next equation is x minus 1 is equal to 4. So I have to solve this. So I have x minus 1 is equal to 4. Well, what I know is I draw a line through my equal sign. And then I also know that the opposite of minus 1 is to add 1, so I add 1 to both sides. If I were to forget about that x, well, negative 1 plus 1 is 0, so those cancel. I'm left with x is equal to 4 plus 1, which is 5. And because it's equal to, I look over here, and I know that it's just a dot right on that 5. And it's a shaded in dot, so make sure that you shade that in. So how many solutions do I have? Well, I only have 1. But I have to look over here. I have x minus 1 is less than 4. So I have to solve that. So I have x minus 1 is less than 4. Okay, so I could do two things. I could either rewrite it, x minus 1 is less than 4, but I want to rewrite it with an equal sign. So I could rewrite it and then solve it that way, or I could just draw a line through this inequality sign. The opposite of minus 1 is to add 1. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. And then I'm left with x is less than 5. But it says, what are the possible values for x? Well, the possible values are any numbers that are less than 5. So I have 4, 3, 2, 1, and etc. So I have to find this on my number line. So on my number line, I find 5, which is right here. Well, I want to see the less than symbol, which is right here. And I want to do what that says. This white circle means I'm going to leave that circle open. And so my less than is going to be pointed this way. And the number of solutions, because I have an arrow, it's not just pointing, it's not just plotted on one number. I have many solutions. So possible values for x. So I have 3x is equal to negative 6. So I have to solve this. 3x is equal to negative 6. In order for me to solve this, I draw a line through my equal sign. And I know that this means multiplication in the middle of this. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So I divide by 3 on both sides. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Remember, I don't have to write the 1. And x is equal to negative 6 divided by 3. Well, I know that 6 divided by 3 is 2, and I need that triangle to determine if it should be positive or negative. So I'm doing a negative divided by a positive, so I know that my answer is x is equal to negative 2. So the only possible value is negative 2. So I find negative 2 on my number line, and I shade it in. And I only have one solution, because it's equal to, it's only equal to that one number. So possible values for x. Okay, well I have 3x is greater than negative 6. So 3x is greater than negative 6. So I could rewrite that. I could write 3x is equal to negative 6, because you guys are really good with there's an equal sign, but when you throw in a different sign, it's a little bit more difficult. Okay, so I would draw my line through my equal sign. What I know is that there is an imaginary multiplication symbol in the middle here. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I divide by 3 on both sides. I'm still left with x, but this time I want to put this inequality sign there. So I'm left with x is greater than negative 6 divided by 3, which is negative 2. So my possible values for negative 2 are anything that's bigger than negative 2. So I could put 0, 1, 2, and keep going. So first I want to find negative 2 on my number line, and then I want to see, do I shade that circle in or do I not? So I want to find this symbol on my chart. Well, this symbol on my chart is right here. And so I have a white circle, which means I don't shade it in, and I know that my line is going to go this way. But I'm going to show you guys a trick. So I want you to notice this part. If I have a sign that looks like this, I could make an arrow out of it. So if I make an arrow, well, it tells me that I need to be pointing to the right. So I know that I'm going to be shading that way. Or if I had a symbol that looks like this and I made an arrow out of it, well, I know that it's shading to the left. So you can always make arrows out of those inequality signs. So how many solutions? Well, since I have an arrow pointing somewhere, I know that it's many solutions. I want you to go ahead and stop this video, and I want you to go back to Edmodo so that you can watch the second video. There's 2 parts to this lesson. We're almost done though, so hang in there.